I'll be honest, I kind of missed that beat yesterday. I missed that intro music. Apologies for no show yesterday. We'll call it a PTO day. Had some previous priors that I needed to get taken care of. Now they are. Now we're back. We're talking BYU versus Cincinnati. Both teams looking for a big opportunity, or looking at a big opportunity for their first official conference wins as members of the Big 12 Conference. It's going to be a lot of fun Friday night at LaBelle Edwards Stadium. So apologies for no video yesterday, but we're back today. This is the Daily Dose. I am Jeff Hansen. Show's brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com. Let's just talk it. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about this game. This game presents a pretty tough challenge for BYU. The bettors, the sports line, the odds makers, they think this game's going to be close. BYU opened up as a 3-point favorite. That line is swung to, I think, Cincinnati, depending on the book, 2-point favorite, 2.5-point favorite right now. And those have kind of been the bookends, that BYU 3-point favorite, Cincinnati 2.5-point. The line is swung kind of in between those two numbers throughout the week. People are expecting a close game, and when you look at the numbers, it makes a ton of sense. This is a very, very interesting matchup. BYU's offense, especially versus Cincinnati's defense. BYU, they've struggled to get the run game going. They haven't even struggled. They have not got the run game going. It's been bad. Cincinnati's defensive strength, stopping the run. They've been susceptible to the pass game, but man, they are as good at stopping the run as just about anybody. They're a very, very good team with a very, very good defensive front. And it starts with one single very, very good player in Dante Corleone. He's an all-American caliber defensive tackle. Aaron Roderick said he's the best defensive lineman that BYU will have played this year. Jay Hill, even previewing his side of the ball where Jay Hill's on defense, even he talked about Dante Corleone, called him an all-American type of a player. That's how good this dude is. He's the kind of guy who can blow up a play. He can blow up an entire offensive scheme. He can get after the passer, but he really just plugs up that middle and makes the running game really, really difficult to come by. And BYU's done a pretty good job themselves of making it hard for the running game to succeed just on their own. You factor in a player like Corleone, the Godfather. This is going to be a tough matchup for BYU. But it's more than just Corleone on the defensive front for Cincinnati. Malik Vann, very good, 270 pounds. Kind of reminds me of a Tyler Batty type player. He's very, very good. Utah State transfer, Daniel Griziak, very good. 10 pressures off the edge. One of the best pure pass rushers in the Big 12 Conference. Eric Phillips has 13 pressures off the edge as well. I mean, it's a deep defensive line. They get after quarterbacks. They get into the backfield, and they stop the run. So this is going to be a tough challenge and a tough matchup for BYU. Don't let that loss to Miami of Ohio fool you into thinking that BYU is going to roll in this game just because Cincinnati isn't that good. Cincinnati, that was an embarrassing loss. It was embarrassing for Cincinnati. The Big 12 was a little embarrassed. I think any Cincinnati, any Bearcat fan would agree with you. That loss sucked and was embarrassing. But the next week, they turned around and, yeah, they lost to Oklahoma, but that was a high-powered offense with Dylan Gabriel, and the Bearcats held the Sooners to just 20 points on offense. This is a very, very good defense. Let's jump into some numbers. I want to look at some numbers here. So let me share my screen. Let's look at an ugly black screen of numbers. What are we looking at here? Yards per play, because this is where I think maybe the game will be decided is in this particular situation. So yards per play, and I want to focus in on this metric right here. So you see BYU net yards per play ranked 66th. I don't really care about that right now. Right here, this column is the percentage of drives that have averaged at least 4 yards per play. Okay, 4 yards per play. BYU's offense, 47.4% of drives have averaged 4 yards per play. That's not very good. That's 93rd in the country. So if you think about yards per play, right? I mean, it's not quite a yards per carry type of a metric, but if you think of 4 yards per play, that's basically staying ahead of the chains. And when you don't get those, when you're not getting ahead of the chains, you're not getting those short yardage, you're not setting up 3rd and 2 or 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, it limits your opportunities for big plays. And we've seen that as a result. How many times does BYU's offense average 7 yards per play per drive? Just 18% of the time, 103rd in the country. 10 yards per play per drive, nearly 8, less than 8% of the time. That's 110th in the country. But it starts with those short plays. It starts with the run game. Now we come down here to Cincinnati, and we see them ranked 72nd in net. I don't really care. But here's their defensive yards per play allowed. They are 48th best in the country. 50% of drives, they're allowing less than 4 yards per play on defense. That matchup right here, Cincinnati's defense and their ability to get teams off the field, their ability to limit those, keep teams behind the chains and limit those chain moving type plays, and BYU's inability to gain those types of plays. That is going to be, I think, one of the biggest stories of this game. If BYU can win on first down, then I think BYU will have a lot of success on offense. If they can win on first down and get into second and third and manageables, then yeah, BYU is going to be able to open up their playbook a little bit and take advantage of the more susceptible Cincinnati secondary. If BYU's running game does what BYU's running game has done, and they are playing in 2nd and 9, 3rd and 6, this is going to be a long night for BYU, because that defensive front, if they know it's a passing situation, if they know Keaton Slovis is going to have to sit back there in the pocket because they don't have to respect the running game at all, this is the kind of defensive front that will give BYU absolute nightmares. So that has to be a big part of the game. They've got to get the running game going. Maybe if you can't run between the tackles, you got to figure out the short passing game. You've got to figure out the screen game. BYU will have to figure out something to keep that defensive front from simply pinning their ears back and getting after Keaton Slovis. That's going to be really tough. First down is when it matters. First quarter is a big quarter for BYU as well. Sold out stadium at LaVell Edwards Stadium, crazy environment. If BYU could come out and capitalize on what's going to be an electric atmosphere, they can make it very difficult for Cincinnati to recompose themselves and get back into the game. BYU, the last couple of weeks, even though they won at Arkansas, they spotted the Hogs 14 points before anybody showed up. Last week, a scoop and score on BYU's first offensive drive of the game. They're right there. They're already behind early in the game. BYU cannot afford to do that and sacrifice what will be an electric atmosphere at LaVell Edwards Stadium. So I think first down is very important for BYU. I think the first quarter is very important for BYU. Start fast, win on first down, and I think that's the recipe for BYU to get their first win in the first conference win in the Big 12 Conference. If they can't do that, if they don't do those two things, then I think Cincinnati's looking at a really good path to get their first conference win as members of the Big 12 Conference. I really do think it boils down to first down and how quickly BYU starts. That quick start is huge because this team, they've heard, especially the offensive line, the rushing game, they've heard the complaints. They've seen the box score. They were in the games. They know what has gone wrong. If they lose confidence, if they start out slow, if they lose the environment and the atmosphere of LaVell Edwards Stadium, that's when that lack of confidence starts to set in. You start to doubt yourself. If BYU can respond well, score quick, maybe have a couple of 7, 8, 9-yard runs early in the game, I think that changes the entire direction of the game. The first quarter is just so important, and that's what it takes. That's, in my mind, that's what it takes to get the first win. We'll have a lot more tomorrow as we preview the game tomorrow night. But that's it for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in to the Daily Dose. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And until next time, give them hell.